Trafalgar Law is one of the members of One Piece's worst generation and an incredibly powerful pirate who hails from the North Blue. As the captain of the Heart Pirates, Law amassed a massive bounty of 200 million berries before the 2-year time skip, and since then he's only gone from strength to strength. In the New World, Law has established himself as a key player of the new generation. In fact, Law was the trigger to everything that's happening in Wano country currently. One of the biggest talking points about Trafalgar Law is certainly his devil fruit ability. Law was fed the Ope Ope no Mi at a very young age, and this fruit gave him the power to create large spherical rooms within which everything was his to control, from the terrain to the people inside it. While the devil fruit's basic power in itself is quite frightening, it is the awakening of the Ope Ope no Mi that makes him much more dangerous. However, in this video, we will talk all about Ope Ope no Mi, and why it is called the ultimate devil fruit. First of all, it has the power to heal anything. Currently, the Ope Ope no Mi is in the possession of Trafalgar Law, and before him, it belonged to an unknown doctor. Both Law and the previous user of the devil fruit have one thing in common: both are specialists when it comes to medical procedures. As a kid, Trafalgar Law was infected with the fatal amber lead disease, which was considered incurable. No matter how many hospitals Corazon took him to, no doctor seemed to help. Things weren't looking good for Law, but Corazon wasn't ready to give up. At the end, he decided to make one final attempt. Corazon used his powers to steal the Ope Ope no Mi from Diaz barrels, and feed it to Law. Obviously, Law couldn't master his new abilities straight away, but with time he gained enough control to cure himself of the disease. As he grew up, Law's medical prowess improved, and his abilities came in clutch once again when he saved Luffy. Without the Ope Ope no Mi, it would have been impossible for Law to treat Luffy's injuries. After which, it has attacking prowess. Unlike most devil fruits, the Ope Ope no Mi has one major drawback, that is, it drains the user's stamina after repeated usage. Although, considering the absurd powers that it grants, the stamina loss doesn't seem like a big trade-off. In the Wano country arc, Law demonstrated the actual power of his devil fruit. Before the arc, Law did not get a fair chance to show off his abilities, but when the alliance was up against Big Mom, he was left with no other choice. Law's devil fruit allows him to create rooms, and whoever is trapped inside is at Law's mercy. He can control any object and even swap places with it while a room is active, allowing him to catch his opponent off guard with a surprise attack. Law can also cut an opponent into multiple pieces without harming them. This can prove to be a useful ability, especially when he's trying to extort information. Gamma Knife, which is one of Law's signature moves, destroys the insides of the target, which can prove to be fatal. However, the most important thing about his devil fruit is at the time of its awakening. Trafalgar Law used his devil fruit awakening against Big Mom. Law showed that he could create space-distorting essence, and he can add to his attacks to overwhelm his opponents. Instead of a huge room, Law employs a technique called K-Room and creates a small bubble that can be attached to his sword. This allows Law to effectively bypass the external defense of his target and hurt them from within. Another attack that Law can use is called Shock Will. In this attack, his sword phases through the body of a person and creates shock waves from within. When used against Big Mom, Shock Will caused her to bleed from her mouth. However, Puncture Will is the more powerful variation of Shock Will, and Law used it to defeat Big Mom. The other notable abilities of his devil fruit are Reroom and Silence. Reroom can be attached to a target, and it will stick to them, expanding its size if necessary. Once a target is stuck inside a Reroom, Law can use Silence to nullify the sound coming from the target. It is quite similar to Corazon's Nagi Nagi no Mi, and it wouldn't be a stretch to say that the attack was Law's way of paying tribute to his savior, who died protecting him. At the end, now let's talk about the reason why it is called the ultimate devil fruit. The offensive abilities that Ope Ope no Mi grants are enough for it to be called the ultimate devil fruit. However, the ability to grant another person immortality is what gave the fruit its name. The procedure is known as immortality operation, but it comes at the cost of the user's life. Doflamingo wanted Law to eat the devil fruit and perform the operation on him, so that he could rule the world. Doflamingo also stated that if the Ope Ope no Mi is used with the treasure of celestial dragons. Currently, there is no information on what treasure Doflamingo was talking about, but we can expect the secret to be revealed down the line. Clearly, the Ope Ope no Mi is a strong devil fruit, and it will be interesting to see how far it can carry Law. And that is all for today. I hope you all enjoy this video, and I also asked you to subscribe to help us. It will also help us to grow more, and if you like, please subscribe.